Should. And we are live. Welcome to the Monday Night Raw podcast on Wrestling Inc. I am joined for the first time. Actually, I'm working with this guy. Very excited. Jack Farmer, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm feeling good. I know there was a lot of people talking about this show, and there's some thumbs up and thumbs down. I thought it was a pretty decent show. I might be the outlier, but I'm excited to be here to chat about it.
I'm right there with you, actually, Jack. So maybe we'll have to fight them together. Next is our esteemed owner here at Wrestling Inc. Always working hard and had some great scoops this weekend. Raj Giri, how you doing, man?
What's going on, guys? I'll bring the negativity since you guys seem like you like this this show.
Well, you're the boss, so I agree with you. So I'm flip-flopping.
Well, before we get into the show, what are you guys' just general thoughts of the show? What do you guys think? I'll start with you, Jack.
Well, what I liked about it is that we started off with a story in the beginning and it came full circle at the end. Now, I thought there were some casualties along the way, but overall, I thought it did a good job of building up to what has to be the 9th biggest show of the year in Fastlane, and it checked a lot of boxes. So I thought it was a good show overall.
I mean, I see why they have Fastlane this year. Like they need a test run for the network on Peacock, but as someone who grew up on WrestleMania, my childhood was WrestleMania. You know, WrestleMania 4 was the first WrestleMania I saw. The same night I didn't watch it live. WrestleMania 5 I saw live, and I have a connection with it. And it just does not feel like WrestleMania season, and it just annoys me that I don't have that feeling. Like I want the matches to feel big. I want to feel like we're building to these huge epic matches, and it just doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. I agree.
No, so if I could piggyback on that, I think one of the reasons for feeling that is because I was thinking about that earlier, and I was thinking about how I like the matchups, I like who's involved, but you're right, it's missing a little bit of that spark. I think a lot of these wrestlers and these matches, they're just not peaking at the right time. It feels like there's a lot of matches that have either kind of grown stale, like we've been watching the build for a bit too long, or they're just kind of being thrown at us right away, and they haven't had time to develop. And so I feel like it's in my opinion, it's not necessarily the matchups we have. It's just that it doesn't feel like a lot of things are peaking at the right time, that the way WrestleMania usually makes things peak at the right time.
Right. Yeah, and it also feels like that. I mean, we're just coming out of like the empty arena era, so there's still that stench on this WrestleMania, even though it seems like they're reopening it. It just seems more like a soft reopening with this WrestleMania more than anything. But let's get into this show. We open. Let's go to a super chat.
Yeah, sorry, real quick. Jody Shauna Jenkins with the $2 super chat saying, "Until fans come back, Mania season doesn't exist."
Yeah, I mean that's a great way to put it.
Well, Jack Scallon's a good friend saying, "Good day, Jack." I ask every guest, traditionally Cobra Kai fan. Thanks, Toodles.
Hey, Jax. I'm a big Johnny Lawrence fan. I love his part of the show. That's my favorite part of the show. I like Cobra Kai overall, but I really like Johnny. I want to see more of him in the show, even though he's the star.
Yeah. And so Matt is on vacation. He'll be back a week from Wednesday. Glenn will be back this Friday.
Absolutely. So we start Raw. We get MVP coming out. He's got new kind of like thunder pyro. It's really cool. I mean, I know, Raj, you're a big fan of that new intro package that they have with Lashley. I really love that too. So MVP and Lashley are just kind of gloating, saying how this is the almighty era. In comes Miz, and he's doing his Miz thing. Him and John Morrison are doing some comedy, stirring stuff up, saying Lashley McIntyre is going to be the greatest feud ever or whatnot. Out comes McIntyre. I thought this was very funny. He just walked right past Miz, not even paying attention to these guys. And he confronts Bobby Lashley. Lashley essentially says, "Don't worry about me. You got a match against Sheamus, so that's what you got to worry about." Then McIntyre is interrupted for a quick second, which causes Bobby Lashley to jump Drew McIntyre. And then before we get things started, before we go to the break, Sheamus jumps Bobby Lashley. And his reasoning is that he wants no excuses from Drew McIntyre. He wants to be 100%. So if McIntyre's going to get hurt, then he's going to jump Bobby Lashley as well. And then we go to break before our first match. But before we go to the first match, what do you guys think about this opening segment?
I thought Lashley came out looking like a million hurt bucks. He's been dressing well for a long time, but that suit and that tie, he looked amazing. I love the promo. I love Bobby Lashley right now. I don't care what they want me to do when he comes out. I'm cheering every time I see him. I think he's a superstar. He reminded me of Goldberg the night he won the title, having the long, drawn-out fight until he got his match and then eventually winning it. I want to see him win. I think once WrestleMania comes around, the crowd might react a little differently than what they think it's going to react to. I thought Drew came off kind of like a jerk, actually, ignoring The Miz out there. A future Hall of Famer, and Drew not even paying attention to him. It didn't sit well with me. So I'm kind of glad that The Miz got a few extra shots in on the former champion.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I mean, they do their best to make to remind you that The Miz is insignificant.
Yeah, that's his gimmick, really. He just got his first step up. And even last week when McIntyre cut what I thought was a great promo, he goes, "You beat The Miz. The Miz? The Miz?"
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's the match. It's Lashley and McIntyre. Yeah, again, I call Fastlane speed bump because that's all it's doing is slowing things down until we get to WrestleMania. Yeah, I mean, not much else to say, but Lashley is on another level. I hope they change their minds on having Lashley lose the title to Drew, because he is just on fire right now. He just looks like a superstar. It just shows, like, when you present someone like they should be presented, what you can do. And Lashley's been there this whole time, and just now that they actually, put the rocket on him, you just see that he's a superstar, and he's just killing it.
He even sounds more confident, like on the microphone, the way he carries himself, the way he looks, he feels like he's a different person. I think just knowing that everyone believes in him now, that's why it's kind of infectious. Like, I want him to do well. I want him to keep the title. And like, he just looks good with that title around his waist as well. Poor Miz, though, getting you're right, the way Drew just kind of cut him down. Drew, by the way, I'm just going after Drew tonight, still bragging about beating Brock Lesnar. That was a year ago, and he's still out here saying, "Hey, remember that guy I beat a year ago?" But Sheamus seemed kind of out of nowhere. I mean, I get it, it set up a great main event later in the night, but that kind of seemed out of nowhere. Even his little promo backstage felt a little Steiner math with him being, well, I want 90%. I don't want 100% Drew, or so I'm going to take out Lashley.
33% of the 67%.
As I was listening to it, I think it kind of felt like even he got lost in what he was trying to say. Like, it didn't really make sense. I don't know why he's going after Bobby Lashley when he's mad at Drew McIntyre. It didn't make sense to me, but it got us to a place we liked. So I charted it as a win.
So we get Miz versus Drew McIntyre. So it was kind of similar to last week's scenario where the Miz versus Lashley went way longer than I thought it should have. But, the Miz actually got some offense in. Miz got offense in here. And early on, the story was that Drew McIntyre was hobbled. So Miz was able to use his glasses. Morrison got involved. But eventually, Drew just chopped the hell out of Miz's chest. I mean, they've got pictures online of what the Miz's chest looks like. It chopped him like crazy. Takes control. The finish comes when Drew McIntyre finishes off the Miz with a hurt lock as a message to Bobby Lashley, and Drew McIntyre wins. Poor Miz. What did you guys think about this match?
I have time for Miz, so I thought it was great. But you're right; he took a couple of chops. Personally, if I took a chop like that, I'd have tapped out. You wouldn't have gotten to a hurt lock on me. I would have been done very early on. But I like that this seemed a bit more competitive. I'm loving John Morrison lately too, throwing the glasses in the ring. I thought that was a fun little touch. He seems like he's just having the time of his life right now, just having a good time. His hair looking like a glorious horse's mane as he's coming out there. Miz, though, just always finding a way to be in that world title conversation for the past 6 months. He's somehow managed to hang in there, even though no one gives him any credit or the time of day. He manages to hang in there. And I think the outcome was what we expected, and it all works out for me. But I still got love for the Miz.
Especially considering he's won 2 singles matches in the last calendar year. So he does manage to, Miz is uber talented. He's great at what he does. he was just a transition from moving the title to Lashley, and you needed to have Drew beat Miz, I guess, because Miz did beat him for the title. So I think with Fastlane, I figured it was either going to be Miz or Sheamus, and they're going with Sheamus. But yeah, I mean, it made sense from a storyline perspective. Real quick, Rana Shaw with the $2 super chat saying, "What's up with Morrison's hair lately?" Oh, well.
I love it. If I had hair like that, that's how I do my hair. But it's
I'm growing it out to try it. We'll see.
Well, I expect you to have the big pompadour ponytail once it's all done.
That's my plan.
So we get more, tensions between Lashley and McIntyre after this match. That was kind of the theme throughout this show. Then we get into this segment with Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman, where it's more of Shane McMahon inferring that Braun Strowman is dumb. Braun Strowman says, just because you went to an Ivy League doesn't make you smarter than me. McMahon's always lied, whatnot, just that kind of stuff. And then they come up with kind of a slick excuse for why that segment last week was so terrible, and that Braun says, the reason that you fumbled through your lines last week is because you're scared of me. That's why. So, I mean, at least they tried to tie that together. And essentially this ends with Braun Strowman challenging Shane McMahon to a match. I mean, at some point they start stepping on each other, but Shane McMahon does accept a match with Braun Strowman for later on tonight.
The thing that gets me about this is so far, Braun Strowman has done nothing to prove he's not stupid.
Exactly.
I mean, the response is, like, hey, I think you're dumb, Braun. He's like, roar, fight me. Like, you are being the stereotype that you're being called when you do that, Braun. And so that's the one thing. And I don't know how you solve that in this situation. Like, even if Braun gets his hands on Shane McMahon and let's say he just beats him up tonight, or at Fastlane, or at Mania, you don't go, oh, wow, he beat up Shane McMahon, someone who's like twice his age and half his size. He really is smart. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It feels like a very elementary school thing, too. Like, you're a dummy. I don't know. That's it. I think whatever match they have, Shane's going to go flying. It'll be really fun. But at the end of this all, but I feel like it's a very, very elementary school way to set this all up.
I agree. Tina Miller, the Monster Among Men, gets beat up by a guy who qualifies for a senior discount at McDonald's. He does. I mean, I posted this on Twitter. It would be the equivalent of if Todd Pettengill back in the day beat the piss out of Yokozuna. Regardless of if he had a camera or whatever, Craig DeGeorge beat up Andre the Giant. At some point, it just makes him look terrible. And to your point, Jack, he just looks stupid. Like the gimmick is that Shane's calling him stupid, and then he acts stupid. It's not doing him any favors. I just remember the Braun from 3 years ago who was just plowing through guys at the Elimination Chamber, had that memorable feud with Roman Reigns. He just seemed like they found their new Undertaker in a lot of ways, that monster. And then they just pissed it away. He's just another guy, and he just looks terrible in this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you know what, the thing at the end of it, for me, like watching this match, and I don't mean to jump ahead or anything, but like watching the match, the thing that gets me is that Shane is such a tough guy. Like if he was a little more cowardly, if he was like more sneaky about it, then I think this whole thing would feel different. But yeah, he just grabbed the camera and beat the crap out of Braun Strowman and then poured slime on his head. I don't know. Like, I mean, if I'm Braun, I'm like, dude, you win. I'm done. You proved I'm an idiot and you can beat me up. That's how I felt. That's how I felt leaving this.
He dominated him.
Yeah. You got the visual from just beating that. Nothing about this feud seems well thought out, from the way they talk to each other, their promos, even that match you saw him doing hopscotch 1 minute, then we've got 2 buckets of slime. Like, this is like a promo written, like this storyline seems like it was written by a 5-year-old. And now we're going to do this. Now we're going to do that. And the thing is, the heat does come where the heel has to say something that's untrue or something that makes the babyface mad that fans can get behind, because it's like, oh, he's lying or he's saying something that's wrong. But nothing that Shane said is wrong. Like, Braun Strowman is an idiot for all intents and purposes. So now it just becomes we're watching bad television. And that's the whole thing seems like it's just backwards.
Yeah, we're watching a guy by the way, the boss, who is successful and rich and all these other things, just belittles some person that works for him, calling him stupid. And he's kind of, I imagine that's kind of almost how like went when they were talking about this whole thing. Like, hey, this is what I want to do. And you sure we should do it this way? Yep, I'm the boss. So I don't know how you make this unless somehow Braun outsmarts Shane in the end. But I don't know. Then I think, dude, Braun, you're like 3 times bigger than Shane McMahon. Why do you need to outsmart him? Why are you putting so much thought into this?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Marie Johnson with the $5 super chat. Thank you, Marie. Asking how old is Shane? He is 51 years old. And he beat the hell out of a guy that's 400 pounds.
He really did.
Logic would say that Braun's getting the win at WrestleMania. Of course, who knows? I mean, Shane is 1-0 against Roman Reigns on pay-per-view. So, who knows? But logic would dictate that Braun is getting the win there. I feel like Shane has always worked best as a babyface. And when he's heel Shane, it's irritating, not to the point where you care. It's just irritating. And when he's a babyface, there's something likable about him that you get behind him. I remember with Undertaker at WrestleMania 32, the crowd was going for him against Undertaker, in that Hell in a Cell match. So yeah, he's just miscast in my opinion as a heel.
I don't know what happened to Shane, because I mean, not only have I watched those Monday Night Raws from the Attitude Era in my adult life and just thought he was a fantastic performer, but I grew up watching him. He was a guy that I loved watching, but his promos these days are horrible. Like, he loses his breath and he always loses his place in line. It's almost like those concussions have built up and you're seeing it over time. So when he has to be a heel, that is dependent on him performing, and he doesn't do that well anymore. So I don't know why they ever cast him as a heel.
And the microphone's like 2 feet away from him, and you can hear him breathing.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Real quick, the Almighty Academy saying, at this point, BTE has better long-term storytelling than Raw.
They have since the beginning, I think. I don't think it's at this point. Since BTE is in existence, I think it's always had better long-term storyline than Raw.
Chris Pantaleo saying, Lanny Poffo will tutor Braun for me.
My hope is that their match is a cinematic match, and Braun just grabs Shane McMahon and climbs up a building like King Kong and then throws Shane off of it. Because that's what Shane probably wants to do, is fly off of something anyway. So I think a little tip of the hat to King Kong in some way, especially the new movie coming out. It's cross promotion. It works out. I think it'd be a great move.
I'm excited for it. Lily MJ saying Braun deserves so much better. Amen. I agree. He's they don't make him like him every day, so keep him special, and they're not keeping him special.
I mean, I would think it would be if you're going to have Shane be a jerk, they would work together better if Braun was almost more in that bodyguard role where he's enforcing Shane's will on people. Right.
That's where I thought they were going with this.
That's what I would like to see, but
yeah.
In the end, I think the WrestleMania match is going to be fun, though, because I think Shane will get thrown off of something, and that's always a fun thing to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we get a backstage segment with R-Truth, and he's with Mandy Rose and Dana and a lot of the women who are going to wrestle in this upcoming segment. And the gimmick is tomorrow is 316 days, so they're using R-Truth to promote all this Stone Cold merchandise. He's got the Austin vest, he's got the like a lunchbox and all this stuff, but it's 3:15 today, so R-Truth is getting that wrong. But this will play into something that happened later tonight that I can't wait to get your guys' thoughts on. Then we get into a match. It's Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose versus Naomi and Lana. Really not a good match at all. But the highlight came when Asuka comes down. They play her music. So she comes down. She's mad at Shayna for giving her that concussion and kicking her tooth out. This causes a distraction, and Lana takes a neck breaker by Dana Brooke. So Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose win this match.
I actually thought that overall this was a decent segment, a decent part of the show, because they need to get more women's tag teams going, and this got 2 tag teams on TV. I think Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke look like they could be the backbone of a women's tag team division. They got that look of a tag team where they look similar. They seem like they would hang out. They seem like they go together. I could see them being the team to eventually take those titles. I'd like to see them have a good run with it. And as far as like Lana and Naomi, those are two people that, like, a lot of people want Naomi on TV. You see her have like that grassroots kind of support that people like on Twitter. Whenever she's on, I see it blow up and people talk about her. So she's on TV. Lana, love her or hate her, she gets reactions. People are into her. So they're kind of like misfit toys. Throw them together, get them on TV. I think that works. And I'm a huge Asuka fan. I'm a huge Shayna Baszler fan. So seeing them cross always makes me happy. So I know it wasn't a technical masterpiece. I know it's not one of those things we're going to go see on specials down the road, but I thought this was a good segment overall at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it makes no sense that Naomi and Lana are in the tag title picture after they just lost cleanly last week. If they're going to be in, why have them get beat? Clean as a whistle. And that's the problem with WWE storytelling. I mean, we're seeing with Drew and Sheamus. I mean, Drew just beat him clean 2 weeks ago. So why are they having a pay-per-view match when there was nothing in dispute? It wasn't like Drew had to cheat to get the win. So they have a decisive winner, and then they keep the feud going. And that just is bad storytelling, in my opinion. If you're writing a book, you don't do that. You're not having Creed and Drago losing to a bunch of people before they face each other, and it's again just simple storytelling. So that I have a hard time with. Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke, there's just something, their chemistry just does not seem there. It seems forced, like they're forced to be a team. Like Mandy and Sonya Deville, I thought were just awesome. They had amazing chemistry together. I don't see that with Dana Brooke, and Dana, I think there's something there. She does a lot of cool stuff. I'd like to see her utilized more, but her with Mandy just is not clicking for me.
Well, I'll never argue with you that the Sonya Deville pairing was better for Mandy. I thought that was great. They should have been a tag team for a long time, but going with what we got, right. making use of what we have, I think they work. Again, in a division where they're struggling to find tag teams. I mean, right now, I think all three women's tag teams were on the show at the same time in one segment there, maybe, unless you're counting Bianca and Sasha at this point, which I guess, I mean, they got a tag team title shot, so maybe we should count them as a women's tag team. But based on what we have, I guess, is where I think it's a matter of like where we're sort of setting our standards, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But those are self-inflicted wounds that they're struggling to come up with tag team, because at one point they had the Iconics, they had Bayley and Sasha Banks, and they're just breaking up all these teams one after another. And with Dana and Mandy, it's like they paired them together strictly for aesthetic reasons. Like they're both blondes, they kind of look alike. If we dress them alike, they'll look like a tag team. But Deville and Mandy Rose are like best friends in real life, and they couldn't be any more opposite in terms of who they are. So it's just WWE overthinking themselves, I think, in terms of them putting these teams together.
Yeah, they broke up Peyton and Billy, and then they started teaming Peyton up with Lacey for a little bit. It's like, why break up a team that actually has chemistry to do something with no chemistry? Beat Money 04 is saying, so they are doing Braun versus Shane at Fastlane and at Mania. Just seeing this match was added to the pay-per-view on Sunday. Yep. So Braun versus Shane, they did it tonight.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing there's going to be a step at WrestleMania. Maybe something where Shane is going to fall off of the ceiling.
You guys think Shane wins that match at Fastlane?
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, why would it continue? I feel
right.
Yeah.
I mean, but maybe, who knows? I mean, I mentioned as we talk about people losing on the build to a road to WrestleMania and things like that. I mean, maybe, who knows? I don't know if this is the right way to have a who knows going to win conversation, but I mean, who knows? Maybe you got to tune in to find out. But who knows?
Yeah. Nelson with the $1.99 super chat saying, why were they hanging out together before the match?
That's a really great question.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I don't want to play this card, but I do think it is a thing that they do with women where it's like almost like an eye candy thing where look at these four beautiful women. Like, doesn't matter if they're going to fight next segment. They never do this with the men. You never see Sheamus and Drew McIntyre just hanging out backstage while Bad Bunny walks by. This is like, it's really kind of WWE overlooking something, but because they see these beautiful women, they're going to use that over them feuding with each other. I think it's something that's very specific to the women that they do.
Tammy noticing that all the women are focused on poorly booked tag titles instead of singles titles, and she's absolutely right. You know, again, I with Sasha and Bianca, I you know, people have their strong feelings. A lot of people were ripping on me for saying that they're not building it well, but you would not see Roman and Edge getting beaten every week, or Drew and Lashley, but they're doing that with Sasha and Bianca. And I just feel like there's still that they don't treat the women's championship as important as the men's yet, unless Ronda Rousey's involved, and that needs to change.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's unfortunate because they have so much talent in the women's division. It's just
more than they've ever had.
Just ridiculously stacked. And so it does feel like one of those things that maybe just doesn't get the attention it needs until it's like, oh, well, we're going on soon, so let's just do this and get through tonight, and then next week we'll start over or something. It's kind of like me with my diet where I'm like, look, the week's already ruined. I'm just going to eat whatever. And then on Monday I'll start over, and that's when I'll be good about it. It feels like they're just perpetually doing that.
And the problem though is that it's been proven to work. They've seen Sasha and Bayley did their best ratings on SmackDown when they did that match on SmackDown. I think it was in October, whenever it was. It did huge. And I always felt like Sasha and Bayley, that should have been the WrestleMania match. They shouldn't have. They peaked it too early. They should have had them be tag team champions till the Rumble, do the split. But it shows that, they draw, and Sasha draws, and they're dropping the ball with that.
Yeah.
So we get the Raw Tag Team Championship match between the Hurt Business and the New Day. I just thought this was a great match. I mean, just in terms of all the stuff they let them do, they went through some commercial breaks. You saw the vintage Shelton Benjamin move where he runs up the ropes and hits that exploder on Kofi. The finish came, there was this huge kind of train wreck sequence where Xavier Woods hit this tornado DDT on Cedric to the outside that set up Kofi hitting the Trouble in Paradise on Shelton Benjamin. The New Day hits the Daybreak, and the New Day are your new Raw Tag Team Champions.
My first question is, does Big E get to count this?
I mean, well, he's on another show. He's already got a belt. I don't think they count this for Big E.
Does he get to say he's a double champion right now? Because they share all the title reigns. I feel like Big E should be making sure his resume is up to date and adding that one onto the list there. I thought this was a great match. I thought this was amazing. I like the fact that the New Day are the champions, by the way, because I feel like where they're at in their careers, having been so good for so long, that you can add teams, and whether the New Day is winning and keeping championships or whether they're losing and other teams are kind of going over them, I think that it makes everyone around them look better. I mean, this was a fantastic match they had tonight. I like the Hurt Business. I wanted them to retain. In fact, I wanted them to make new tag team titles in the image of the Hurt Business. I love them in that black and gold and everything. Their whole aesthetic looks cool. I wanted them to hang on, but now that I know where everything's going, I think it makes sense. And I think that everyone came out looking better after this match.
Yeah, I'm with you. I felt like I like the visual of Lashley, Shelton, and Cedric all with belts. It just looks cool. You don't see that often where you have a faction with all the gold. It's been a while. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that helps Lashley as the top star in your company right now on Raw. So yeah, I again, where they're going, Omos and AJ Styles, I'm very curious for that, so it does make sense. It just seems a little soon. I would have waited a couple of weeks, because I just think the Hurt Business is more important than Omos's and AJ Styles challenging for the tag titles.
Yeah, let me just throw that out there for your guys' thoughts. After this match, AJ Styles and Omos came out and they straight up challenged the New Day for the Raw Tag Team titles at WrestleMania, and that is going to be the match at WrestleMania, AJ and Omos versus the New Day. What are your thoughts, Jack? What do you think about that?
I think that this is one of those things that definitely felt like it was shoehorned in, and they just kind of like shoved it out there, and now this is happening. So it doesn't feel like the most organic way to get here, but I think now from here to WrestleMania, we have an opportunity to see some amazing promos, because I feel like watching AJ Styles interact with the New Day was entertaining, and I could see them building and playing off of each other very well. That and AJ in a match, Kofi Kingston in a match, Xavier Woods in a match. Those three are great. I don't know about Omos. I don't know what he's going to do. He's either going to be terrible, but they're going to all bounce off of him and it's going to be fun to watch, or he's going to be great and it's going to be fun to watch. So I think it'll be a good match overall. I know I keep saying how I love things, but I think that this will play out. It does feel, like I said, a little forced, a little shoved down our throat right at the last second. Like, by the way, this is going to happen, but it'll be a fun ride from here on, I think.
I think with AJ's ability and Omos's size, they're going to do some cool stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm super curious.
Me too.
Yeah, so I'm in. Omos, man, if he can put it together, that guy is a superstar. He has the presence. He has the look. He just looks awesome.
He's their new 2016 Braun Strowman in the way that they just book him as a monster.
Yeah.
He's just this big, huge giant who attracts your attention, and they never make him look weak at all. He doesn't sell anything. And I thought AJ was going to be in some kind of group title match, maybe for the U.S. title or something like that. But I think this is, even though the tag team titles aren't seen as on that level, I think this is way more interesting, and I'm way more intrigued in seeing this.
Same here. I mean, granted, in a couple of years when Shane McMahon is slapping him around, it won't be as cool.
But he's dumping green slime on him.
Right?
Shane's going to stretch AJ.
Is it just me, or I get like vertigo looking at him almost? He's so big. Is he the biggest, like at least height-wise, ever? He's taller than Khali, isn't he?
He's taller than Khali. Giant Gonzalez was taller.
Okay. Yeah.
But
yeah, he is so big. Every time I see him, he looks like he's photoshopped in. It's crazy.
Yeah. Like you would think he's standing on a shoebox, but he's not. Like they used to do with Andre back in the day, but he's not. Real quick, I would say his thing. Someone give Raj a super chat about his 50th Creed Drago reference. One more, and I get a set of steak knives. So shoot for that. Stellar Justin Lopez with the $9.99 super chat saying, so this is the best case scenario they have for AJ Styles at WrestleMania this year. That's so weak. It's like that year when they had nothing for Ziggler and he teamed with Big E at Mania for the titles. The next night was when he won the world title, right?
It was. That was 2013 in the Izod Center.
Yeah. Justin Lopez also saying Cedric and Shelton had to be sacrificial lambs so this match could take place. Hurt Business should be running Raw, holding all the gold into the late summer. Instead, it only lasted 2 weeks. I agree. It felt too soon to not. It was a cool visual with just them with all the gold.
Yes. That would have been and that could, to the point of it could have been an amazing WrestleMania moment. All of them sitting in the ring with all the gold and MVP with them. So I definitely agree with you on that. It's a bummer they lost, but I don't know. And you know what? I don't know if I would say that this is the best case scenario for AJ Styles, but not everyone can have a world title match or a match with The Undertaker or something like that. So when I look at what could be a quote unquote best case scenario for AJ Styles, I wouldn't want to take Lashley out of the world title scene for AJ at this point. I don't know if I'd want to take Drew out of the world title scene for AJ at this point. I don't know if I'd want to take Roman or Edge or Bryan at this point. So I don't know if I'd want to see Undertaker versus AJ too at this point. So looking at it from that perspective, I think this is still a win.
Yeah.
In a weird way, this kind of felt like, because now the Hurt Business, Shelton and Cedric are just kind of up shit creek right now in terms of having a match for WrestleMania with only weeks away. So this felt like this is going to be our WrestleMania match. We have to give like a WrestleMania. Like this felt like the match that they were going to have at WrestleMania. But now that they're kind of on the outside of looking in, I expect them to get involved in the main event, but I don't know what they're going to be doing in terms of match-wise at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Oh, that hurts. Now that you say that, that actually stings really bad because I want them. They deserve to be in WrestleMania. They deserve to have a match at WrestleMania. So when you phrase it like that, and you're absolutely right, that stings. That hurts. I don't know if I like that. Not in a Hurt Business kind of hurt, but just like a I don't like it kind of hurt.
Jack Sallins, our good friend, saying almost as a ninja. He was he's also a bouncer. He was the bouncer of Raw Underground for those 4 weeks that it was on.
Do you think that hurt Braun? Because I remember the first time like watching him on there and seeing Braun looking up at him. Ever since then, Braun hasn't seemed as big to me.
If you recall last year, Braun wasn't even a part of WrestleMania. Like it wasn't until Roman had to step out. You know, he decided to not participate. We're a year now when COVID happened. when it just changed everything. And then Braun was brought in as a replacement, but he didn't even have a WrestleMania match. So they haven't really had plans for him in like a couple of years. And then he got buried with that Bray Wyatt feud, and which often happens with Bray Wyatt feuds, and it just hasn't been the same. It's too bad, because he was the hottest thing in WWE 3-4 years ago when he had that feud with Roman.
Yeah. So we get a backstage segment. So Miz and Morrison, they confront Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. So it looks like this is finally the direction that they're going to go for the WrestleMania match. But when Miz and Morrison walk off, you get R-Truth coming in. He's in his Stone Cold gear, but this time he has the Smoking Skull Replica Championship. And R-Truth convinces Bad Bunny to trade the 24/7 title for this replica Smoking Skull title that you can get for $319 at WWEshop.com. I'm guessing Bad Bunny has $319, but Bad Bunny says he wants this belt instead of the 24/7 title, gives the 24/7 title to R-Truth. He's got his baby back. And so now, at this point, now that they don't have to worry about Damian Priest, I guess all the guys, Drew Gulaks of the world, run after R-Truth. R-Truth is your new 24/7 champion.
I hate whenever someone just drops a title. That's never even one like this one, especially one like this one, because it'd be so easy to just have them get rolled up. And especially even if you want to bounce the title around, to have like Morrison roll him up and then or Miz roll him up and then have R-Truth roll up Miz or Morrison, you get the same thing without just giving away the title. But maybe Bad Bunny's smart. Maybe he just wants to retire undefeated. He wants to retire with that perfect win-loss record and go from there. But this feels like I don't know. I felt like WWE said him as the champion is going to look great when he goes to all these different shows. And then he was done with the shows and they were like, okay, we're done.
It was a very Shawn Michaels move to drop the title without, without getting pinned.
It really is.
And I don't blame Bad Bunny. I'm sure that was what they wanted. I don't get it. I mean, why not have him hold the title till WrestleMania? It's a cool look. He's a Grammy Award winner. He is, he's a big star. I know people will say like, Bad Bunny's not moving ratings or anything, but he has shown that his merch is selling on WWE Shop. He pulled in over $500,000 with a shirt or whatever he had. So, and his YouTube numbers are huge, so it makes perfect sense for them to use him. I don't know. It's the 24/7 title. I can't over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, but even if this was the Intercontinental title, that might have been something that you could take exception with. But I mean, for a title of this caliber,
right.
R-Truth has fun with it. It's just playing games.
Yeah. I will say,
day. Happy 316 Eve.
Happy 316. Yeah, it's almost here on the East Coast, at least.
It's so funny, speaking of that, because they obviously were talking about it all night. And I've always thought, like, I don't know if I like the Thunderdome. I've been kind of torn on it. But then I saw the old video of last year when Stone Cold was out there and it was empty. And I was like, oh, geez, I love the Thunderdome. This thing's amazing. I forgot how recently it was so much worse.
Yeah. It's a year ago this Wednesday that I went with my daughter, Sonia, to Old Chicago's. We sat inside. That was the last time we sat inside a restaurant. And what a year. It's been a year.
Yeah.
Nelson Morono saying, who wins a match, Young Bucks or New Day? I guess
depends on who's booking it.
Exactly.
Yeah, depends on what show it's
AEW, Young Bucks win. WWE, New Day wins in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
James and Becky saying, why can't they do what New Japan does at Wrestle Kingdom? Have New Day versus HB.
Hurt Business.
Okay, gotcha. And then the winner faces AJ on night 2.
I'd like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be with that title, but I'd like the continuity of night 1, something happens, and then it carries on to night 2.
You think they're going to do that with Daniel Bryan? It almost kind of seems like they're heading that direction with Daniel Bryan and Edge and Roman. Like a combination of those two face off on night 1, and then the winner faces either Roman or Edge on night 2. We'll see, but
yeah, that's a weird one because That's almost one of those, like, I want to see all three of them win, so I don't want to see all three of them in a match. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be happy for one and sad for two, no matter how it goes, if they have a three-way. So that's a weird one. I mean, I think Roman Reigns is the best thing going right now, but I think Roman Reigns should have the title for 100 years. I think he's amazing, but
Same.
That's one of those ones where I'm like, but I don't know. That's the SmackDown show.
Yeah. Real quick, Tina say about the Bad Bunny shirts. Most of those sales are from Issa. And Issa replying, "I only got the hoodie."
We get some follow-ups. Great journalism, Raj. You got some problem with that story. So this next thing was hilarious. So we've been complaining about Damian Priest, and he's wrestled like Angel Garza, and then Elias, both guys who are noticeably smaller than him and just going forever with them, really having to sell. Now he gets Jackson Riker, a big monster who's been just protected as this kind of a bodyguard for Elias, squashes him in like 10 seconds, 30 seconds. Just like this big guy who seems like he could take it to Damian Priest. This is the guy that they choose to squash, so he squashes him. After the match, we get some physicality with Bad Bunny. I was surprised they had Elias pick him up, and then teasing he was going to slam him. Then he dropped him, and then in comes Miz with a guitar and like hits Bad Bunny in the back. The guitar does not break. So this big superstar, Grammy Award winning, he's got all these other commitments, just gets crashed with this, paying his dues, brother, with this guitar. So what did you guys think about all that happened in this segment?
I feel like Elias is such an underutilized person right now. Maybe they're waiting for crowds or whatever, but whenever he's given an opportunity, he gets reactions. He does a great job. He's always entertaining. I want to see him more on TV. I want to see him getting wins. I want to see him doing stuff. He's one of those guys that every time he's on, I'm entertained. But if you ask me what's his finishing move, I always have to stop and think about it because he never hits it. He never wins. And even when his music hits, I'm always like, who is this again? Oh, yeah, it's Elias. That's right. But I want to see more from him. I thought this was the kind of win that is great for Damian Priest. This is the kind of match that's great for him. I think he needs to be picking up the dubs, getting some wins, getting some momentum going. And I think along with being paired with Bad Bunny, it's just a good thing for him. But now he needs to start getting those dubs that matter. This wasn't a dub that matters. This was just one to pad the stats. Now he needs to start getting some matches with people who are dangerous, who could win. And I don't know if Riker's that guy.
I was all for it. Damian Priest, you look at him, he's a star. He's a superstar. Jackson Riker, look, we've interviewed him on the site. I have nothing against him, but he has the charisma of a marshmallow. He's just not. He's not someone. He's got the body, but he doesn't have it. And Damian Priest does. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was happy to see Damian Priest win in short order. I'm not complaining that they, buried Jackson Riker. It's just funny that, like...
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Of all guys. Next week, it's going to be an Iron Man match with Humberto Carrillo and Damian Priest. The one time he does a squash is with a giant monster. Yeah. It's weird.
But good for him.
But what's good about
by the way, Humberto Carrillo, have you seen him lately?
He's jacked. Yeah.
He's jacked.
Yeah, huge. He's been getting huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for him, by the way, for being like, you're not going to put me on TV? Fine. I'm just going to go get huge.
And you know what? Just like Christian kind of did a free agency advertisement at the Royal Rumble, whenever his contract is up, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be looking like, well, let's sign this guy. We know he's a good worker, and now he's got the size. Yeah. I mean, that was really the only thing he was missing, I think, in this game. Obviously, he can't cut promos in English or whatnot, but a size like that's going to be a major talent if somebody can capitalize on it.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought his thing that he was too pretty. Like, he just seemed too wholesome, like too nice guy. And I think this helps change that a little bit.
Yeah. Speaking of being jacked, though, and speaking of old Jackson Riker taking the loss here.
Talking about me?
Talking about you, Raj. No, I think going back to the Damian Priest thing, I think the fact that he beat someone so intimidating helps and makes, like, if he beat some nobody, one of those guys that's just already in the ring when we come back from commercial break and they never introduce him, it wouldn't have done anything. But I think Riker's actually great as that guy, speaking to where he's at and everything, that he's great as that guy that looks at the part, so when he does lose, it feels like it still matters, even though he doesn't get a lot of wins anyways, just because he does have that big, mean look.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we go backstage with the MVP, Lashley and Sarah Schreiber. MVP doesn't even let her finish the questions. He's just pissed off, and he says that he guarantees that Lashley's going to, well, doesn't say guarantee, but he says same thing's going to happen to Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania that Bobby Lashley is going to do to Sheamus. So he's just hot and bothered. Then we get into the Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman match. I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but this was a doozy. It's basically Shane McMahon, Braun Strowman playing cat and mouse. At one point, there's a random hopscotch. Shane McMahon is hopping around. Braun Strowman, again, this is a storyline based on whether or not Braun Strowman is dumb, and he's getting outsmarted every step of the way in this match. Shane's running around, and he finally does the thing where he runs around to do that big slam that, or bump that he does, shoulder tackle. And Shane takes the camera and hits Braun, beats the hell out of him with this camera, hits him with some ones and twos, rights and lefts, puts him on the table, and he hits his Shane McMahon patented elbow. But that's not enough. He takes 2 buckets of green slime and pours it all over this poor monster. And this match is over. I guess Braun Strowman won by disqualification, but boy, did he lose so much.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how you save it, because even if Braun comes back or goes to Fastlane and beats up Shane McMahon, it's still like, dude, you got beat up by Shane McMahon and you got green slime dumped on your head as he was doing hopscotch around the ring. Like, we talk about Jackson Riker just got squashed. Look at Braun Strowman after this. I think Jackson Riker came out looking better than Braun Strowman did.
All that was missing is Shane taking a leak on Braun after it was all. That's where we're at.
That's one of those digital extras. You got to have the network for that
part. I mean, it was about as a humiliating segment as you could get. I mean, he used a camera, but please. Again, I brought up the Todd Pettengill with Yokozuna. I mean, that's where we're at. Man, what was that show? The Nickelodeon show? You can't do that on television.
Yeah.
On television,
and you say I don't know, right? And then it drops on you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I mean, it feels like it's clearly they're going to tie in Nickelodeon somehow. Yeah. I would hope so. Otherwise, why was there
a slime match? A slime match at WrestleMania.
Slime bucket on a pole match.
They used slime with Braun Strowman before, and it had nothing to do with Nickelodeon, with like Caleb Braxton and stuff. So I just think this is just what they decide they want to do with Braun.
I don't know what they're doing with Braun. He's wearing the old Truth Commission outfit. Just does not look like the superstar like he did years ago. It's almost like they're doing it on purpose. I don't know.
Because it is on the heels of him getting beat as clean as a whistle by Lashley as well.
Oh, yeah.
So this is, I mean, since he's come back, he's kind of been beaten up every time he's come out to the ring.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got to get on that Korea match or that Korea workout.
Right. I mean, Lashley made sense because they're building him to be the world champ. This, I don't know. I don't find him as a sympathetic babyface heading it. Now I almost want Shane to beat him up some more.
You should. Listen, it was like, as much as it sucked to see just this like 50-year-old man beating up Braun, it was just really awkward to watch. I have gotten no inkling that I should be cheering for Braun Strowman. The guy, they're arguing, okay? So me as a just third party objective is looking at this argument. He's saying you're an idiot, and Braun Strowman acts like an idiot. Well, then I'm with the guy who says you're an idiot as well.
Yeah.
I mean, his only comeback has always been, I demand an apology.
And this guy, the way they script him, he had a line earlier. He's like, just because you went to an Ivy League doesn't mean you're smart. And it's like, most of the times it does, Braun. That's what Ivy Leagues are for. Like,
either you got connections or you're smart, but still,
it doesn't hurt. It doesn't work against you.
Exactly. You can make that point. You can absolutely make that point, like Raj says. There's connection. There's ways of making the point that it doesn't make you smart. But to just say, just because you went to an Ivy League, some of the most brilliant people who've ever lived went to Ivy League.
Right. I mean, so I don't know how they save this, because even if he wins at Fastlane, I'm just going to say, I mean, okay, so you're 1-1, but you still look like a chump when you lost.
Yeah.
And then, so, okay, we go to the rubber match that we're all dying for at WrestleMania. Again, okay, so you beat up a guy who's over 50 and is tiny compared to you, and you're a full-time wrestler who's supposed to be an elite combat person against a guy who's an executive. Like, you're not looking good at the end of this. So I don't know, but maybe they'll have something. I don't know, but I just I don't know.
Let's get some of these chats in here. Alonzo Smith saying, "What is tighter, Braun's t-shirt or Reginald's pants?" It's close. Our good friend Tammy saying, I'd rather watch The Fiend's magic than watch anything with Braun.
We'll get into that. Yeah. We're about to get into that.
Holden Caulfield saying, Braun started an OnlyFans. Vince was not pleased. That would explain a lot. Tina, our good friend Tina, saying, did Braun do something to tick them off or something? It definitely does feel like it.
Yeah, that was in the back of my mind watching this, this seems like how you book somebody who is on the way out.
Yeah. And Tina mentioned, can't believe this is the same guy who threw Roman around by the head a few years ago. What a difference.
Yeah. I wish there was, like I said, I'm trying to be positive. I wish I had a positive takeaway from this. I wish I had something where I could be like, well, the story will play out like this, but I don't know. I can't think of anything. The guy hopscotched before beating him up and dumping slime on his head. I don't know.
Yeah. Lily MJ saying, what did Braun do to piss them off? We're all trying to figure that out. Chris Pantaleo saying, Braun's probably short of a Happy Meal. Wow. And Pumpkinhead Neo Akira saying, maybe this was supposed to be Big Show's spot. Maybe that's why he left. They did this angle with Big Show and Shane, but Shane needed like 3 guys to take Big Show down.
Yeah.
And that's to my point. If he was being the cowardly guy that had his big friends, tripping up
the Mean Street Posse or something coming back.
Yeah. If he had that going on, it'd be like, okay, I get where they're going. But no, he just beat the tar out of poor Braun.
If this was a no DQ match, Shane just destroyed him.
Yeah. Faster than Drew McIntyre could beat Sheamus.
Yes.
Right.
Just watching, people always jump on Shane for his punch, but just watching Braun sell him like he was like Nate Robinson, like on Jello legs, and this is so fake. Like, I hate watching wrestling. Obviously we know it's fake, and that's whatever. But I hate thinking as somebody who loves wrestling, God, this looks so fake, and that's just it was horrible.
Yeah, you don't want to have your intelligence insulted, and
right.
Not like Braun did, no.
Yeah. So, Jack, you were saying that you like to stay positive. Let's put that to the test again, because we get this segment with Alexa Bliss on a swing set, and she says that she wants to give Randy Orton a chance to kick her out of his life. So she issues a challenge to Randy Orton for Fastlane. I'm going to kind of skip forward, but kind of keeping this to the storyline. Randy Orton accepted this challenge, so it looks like we're going to get Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss at Fastlane. Your thoughts?
So I'm going to be honest. If she had challenged anyone else, I'd be like, okay, this is silly. Randy Orton's the one guy who I think might punt kick Alexa Bliss in the head. He's the one guy that, he already, RKO'd Beth Phoenix. I think he might do it. But the truth is, I think this is just going to end the way every Orton match has ended over the past 2 months. And that's going to be with shenanigans happening at the end and the Fiend coming back, or something along those lines. This is one I liked. I like the idea of these two together. I like the idea of them in this rivalry, but it feels like it's been going on for 6 months. It feels like it's been going on for so long, and I'm ready for both of them to move on to something else. My hope is that it leads to a Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania, and that really leads to evil John Cena coming back and trying to get revenge for all the wrongdoings Orton caused him over his career. But I'm not holding my breath for that.
It is headed towards a Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania. Yeah. I forget. Glenn is going to be back on Friday. He loves this crap. Do you guys like this stuff? The Fiend and
not this particular thing. I like the Fiend. I like Braun and Bray Wyatt in the Firefly Funhouse. In certain, when they do certain things with it, it can be good. But him and Randy Orton just have negative chemistry together. They're so bad together because they're both so talented. And I like them both. But anything that Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt do together is just trash for me.
Yeah.
What's kind of been sneaky is I know that I think if you were to poll every WWE fan, the Fiend would have a massive amount of support. People love the Fiend. They want more of the Fiend. But when I look back since he's become the Fiend, I don't think anyone has really left a rivalry with him looking better.
No.
they all
Worse.
they all crater really hard after a rivalry with him.
Seth Rollins had to turn heel. Braun Strowman was not the same. You're absolutely right.
And let's not blame this on The Fiend, because WWE had a chance to have The Fiend beat Seth Rollins like everybody wanted. We forget how hot The Fiend was. The reason people got so pissed off is because it was a bad decision to have The Fiend lose or whatever, the no DQ, the way they did that.
That Hell in the Cell.
Would have won, And then, maybe even Seth Rollins would have been fine as a babyface. But part of this is WWE's booking of The Fiend.
That's fair.
It was... Look, I mention this all the time on the podcast. That first night with The Fiend at SummerSlam when he faced Finn Balor, there's no red lighting, there was no magic. It was just this badass character, and it was awesome. You go back and watch it. It was great. And, man, I wish that was back. With the swing sets and the magic and the yoo-hoo spitting out of the mouth, it's just ridiculous. And, I can't suspend my disbelief. It's just so stupid watching it. And Orton, when he had the evil Orton talking to him last week, which was not mentioned again, or 2 weeks ago, and not really mentioned again. It's just new levels of hokiness that it's Dungeon of Doom, Hulk Hogan when he's like, it's cold, ice or hot, whatever it was. That's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, the most unbelievable part is who would spit out their yoo-hoo. It's delicious.
No,
but,
it's so good.
let me, if you don't mind me countering, do you think it's because the chemistry between The Fiend and Randy Orton? Like, if it wasn't Randy Orton, if it was someone else, would this work? Or is it just this kind of stuff isn't working?
At this point, because it's a mixture. All I'm saying is that it is a mixture of both, because The Fiend was red hot at once upon a time. And at some point, it just gets away from. You even saw this with the Bray Wyatt character. I was there when he debuted. I believe it was SummerSlam in Los Angeles in 2013, where they had their first match against Kane and that kind of inferno match. Outside of Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, that was the hottest thing on the show in terms of how much people wanted to see Bray Wyatt. And then the Bray Wyatt character kind of cratered. So there is kind of an aging effect to. You just have to. You can't get away from yourself when you're booking a character like this. And WWE and Bray Wyatt to a degree don't have the discipline to keep a character like this interesting the way they do with the Undertaker.
Yeah, Vince can't help but turn him into the Undertaker. He's like, he's creepy, so he's got to be magical. Yeah. Even though it makes no sense that he has magic, but they keep doing it. And I just think it sucks. You know what? I wasn't a big fan with the Undertaker's magic either. If I look back at my favorite stuff that the Undertaker did, it was his stuff with Shawn, not the magic stuff, but with Stone Cold, not when he was being embalmed, but like the other stuff. It was always like the non-magic stuff, and when they would have him die and come back, that they always lost me with those.
I think I'm going to disagree with you. I love Undertaker through and through, beginning to end. But I will say that I think the difference is with the magic stuff with the Undertaker, even though, is it wasn't you weren't seeing them do different magic-y things every single week. I think it's. And especially with Randy Orton now, as you watch, anytime Orton is involved in a match, it's going to be the main event because it's going to go to a Fiend thing and it's going to be a thrown out. That was the bummer last week with the match with AJ. As going into it, I was like, man, this is a slapper. This is a great match. I love that we're getting this. And then, a few minutes in, you're like, oh yeah, this is going to happen. It's not going to go. That's how they're going to end it. And so. Now I just want them to go their separate ways. I just want them to do their own thing. I don't know where I want them to go, but I just want them to have rivalries with other people.
Yeah,
I'm with both of you. I'm with both of you when it comes to the Undertaker. But I will say, as much as I love the Undertaker's magic, the greatest 4-year stretch of his career to me was WrestleMania's 25, 26, 27, 28. Shawn Michaels, Triple H. It's about as human of a story as you can tell. Had nothing to do with magic. It was end of an era. It was how these legends who are now trying to prove that they are cementing their legacy. And it was this great story that they told that was devoid of any magic.
Yeah, I agree. And now with Orton versus Bliss, it's going to be her turning into a 6-year-old and then back to herself and. It's basically going to be a magic match. There might be a move or two, but
I strongly expect to see this be where they bring the Fiend back. I think
for sure.
They're talking about the kick. I think it's going to lead to Orton's going to run to kick her, and then the lights go out, and we get the Fiend coming back. That's the only way I think this can end.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. We're definitely getting the Fiend back.
Yeah. And then it'll really be on Bray Wyatt to see if he can salvage this and make it something more interesting and give it that last push till the end.
Yeah.
Great point.
Kendra Cruz saying the Goldberg loss came at a bad time. Yeah, I mean, you know what? But if you look back at what they had planned for last year's WrestleMania, it was supposed to be Bray Wyatt versus who was it? It wasn't Cena originally. It was supposed to be Cena versus Elias. Roman versus
Goldberg. It was Roman Goldberg last year, right? That was
they changed it to Roman Goldberg, but it was supposed to be like the original card was pretty weak. So I see why they did ultimately have Goldberg beat Bray, but yeah, it did halt his momentum for sure.
I think that's a good thing to bring up though, because I think Goldberg came out pretty good from that rivalry. So maybe that's the exception to the rule.
You gotta push your young guys. Jacoby Wright. Look, I'm a huge Goldberg fan, so I can't complain. Jacoby Wright saying early Bray Wyatt was getting buried by everyone, and now he's doing the same thing to everyone else by downgrading them. LOL.
Yeah.
You got a fan here, Jack. Jack is a national treasure. Wow.
Hey, thank you.
I'm very upset. I've just never been called that.
Well, it's a process.
Jack Scallon saying, has there been any info of why Bray has been away? I love drawn out story or feuds, but this seems way too long, and they're running out of creativity in it. Absolutely, it was supposed to take place at the Royal Rumble, and then they decided to extend it. So yeah, they're just needling their thumbs until WrestleMania, but there's no other reason.
Yeah, this is the best thing that could have happened to this Bray Wyatt character is that amid all the crap that's going on, the Fiend is gone, so you're kind of like, well, when he comes back, it'll be a new thing. Maybe this will save the feud. Like, I'm kind of looking forward to the Fiend's return because, like, it can't get any worse than this, I don't think. But, I mean, it's just good that the Fiend's been away from all of this.
It's very easy to like look back and change things, but it feels like if you had Bray get burned and then Randy Orton start like a mini rivalry with someone else, and then everything the same except at Fastlane when Bray Wyatt returns, it's after Randy Orton beats some other random, like whoever the person is they pair him up with, and then he comes back and they reignite it that way, as opposed to just every week like slowly dragging things out. And I don't know, I'm a believer. You don't need him on every week. I don't need to see it every single week. Now, if you're Randy Orton at this point, why aren't you just like, I'm just not going to go in today. I mean, I'm coughing up Yoo-hoo. Why would I be here?
Yeah. Real quick, Francisco saying I'm a national treasure. Thank you, but Andy the Sock doesn't agree because you're not a national treasure. Holden saying, Rod, you're doing a show with national treasure. Could be either Alfred or Jack. And DiBiase fears Raj. I give him investment advice. And finally, Dan FC002. Alexa Bliss going to do the Chucky chant that will bring back the Fiend.
Ooh.
At this point,
can't wait.
And thank you, Jax. Treasure. Thank you, guys.
So we go from one. We go from one national treasure to another because I thought Asuka was fantastic on this show. This was
how they should book her.
Yeah, exactly. This is what kind of stuck out to me on this show is that not only earlier that I think she was great coming out pissed off about getting kicked in the face, but she has this match with Shayna Baszler. It's not very long, but I really liked it. Asuka's kind of running wild. She kicks Nia in the back of the head at one point. The finish comes where Asuka gets caught in a Karafuda clutch, but she rolls it up kind of like Bret Hart and Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 8, where she rolls him into a pinfall roll-up combination, and she gets the win while also kind of being choked out. But then she gets her heat back by beating up Shayna Baszler, and she removes the bottom turnbuckle. This is something I don't think I would see on PGWB. She puts Shayna Baszler's teeth on the bottom turnbuckle and like kicks her head, almost like a legit curb stomp, like American History X type curb stomp, to kind of get her revenge on Shayna. So I just thought this whole sequence made Asuka look like a killer, and she's never better than when she's a killer.
100,000%. I agree completely. I love that she came out. I love that it was a quick match. I love that she got a quick win. I also like that Shayna Baszler, I got the feeling that she let herself get pinned just so she could keep choking out Asuka for a little bit longer, which I thought was cool. But then I also love that Asuka was like, no. I'm the Empress of Tomorrow, and tomorrow is today, and just laid waste to Shayna Baszler. These two are so good together. I was shocked that they didn't build more of a story between the fact that Asuka's a legendary NXT Women's Champion, Shayna Baszler a legendary NXT Women's Champion. These two can finally go at it like a WrestleMania. These two are so amazing. I thought this was a great segment. Asuka took a knee to the face, by the way, during this match. That was incredible. But I love this. I agree with you guys. This is the Asuka this is the Asuka we need. This is the Asuka we deserve. This is the Asuka that should be on TV every week. I'm excited for it.
100%. I mean, this is the Asuka that she's a superstar when she's booked like this, and when you get away. I mean, I hate to say it, but they've been booking her like crap. Like, she hasn't had a pay-per-view match in months. The last pay-per-view, they had like 30 minutes left, and they didn't just have her do an impromptu match with Peyton Royce or anyone else. It's not hard to think of. So. But I thought this was great. I thought Asuka looked amazing. She looked like she was getting in some receipts.
Oh yeah, did she ever?
Some of the stuff looked very sick, very stiff, but it was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, it's gotta be tough if you're Shane and you're kind of like, I deserve this. That's fair.
I mean, that was a brutal kick that she gave. I mean, it didn't look like she was. I mean, you watch it back, it's like, where were you protecting her? It wasn't even. There was no thigh slap or anything. I guess that's banned now, but still.
This is one of those storylines with like a built-in. Like, I know they probably have a direction for Asuka, but it's almost like that Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan thing with the bat, where they kind of turned that into a storyline that actually did pretty good business comparatively for Impact. Is that I just want them to go all the way with this Asuka Shayna thing. I don't. Yes, Rhea Ripley's going to come in, probably Charlotte, but I'm into Asuka and Shayna right now after seeing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the title match I'd want to see at WrestleMania right now for Asuka is her and Baszler. And yeah, I agree with Raj with what you said. Asuka, I don't know why it feels like they don't want her for the past year or so. They haven't wanted her to be the NXT champion style Asuka that we all grew to love so much. For some reason they didn't like, and even to her being like scared of Alexa for a little bit. Yeah. And now maybe they're just figuring it out and going, you know what? It worked before. Let's just do it again. And I love it. And I hope it keeps going.
Absolutely. Real quick, let's get a couple of these chats in. Hendrik Cruz.
Alfred
is a national treasure too. Just throwing that out there.
So much. I was starting to doubt myself. But yeah.
We got a lot of treasures on this podcast. Issa is a universal treasure. Thank you, Justin Lopez. Yes, it was Bray defending versus Roman last year. That was supposed to be the WrestleMania match before they changed it to Goldberg. Tina Miller bringing up that Asuka was looking like a killer.
Yeah.
The fans will tell you what they want. Sometimes, I mean, they used to chant "Asuka's gonna kill you" in NXT. Like, that's what they see her as. So make her into a killer.
Yeah. Jose Yepes is saying the thigh slap was alive and well. Oh yeah, that's right. That knee strike. Yeah. Shayna did have a thigh slap. Good point.
That was one replay I wish they didn't show because you could see it super clear in the replay. But when it happened live, I didn't see it. And it just looked like it looked good. But
yeah.
So
it's fine.
We go backstage, and Mustafa Ali is just running down Retribution, saying he's going to beat Riddle and set an example. Then we get Riddle versus Ali. I thought these two had a good match. The finish comes. We're still telling the story about Retribution breaking up because T-Bar distracts the referee, which leads to Mustafa Ali getting thrown off. He takes a bro Derek and loses. Riddle retains the U.S. title, and Mustafa Ali is pissed off at Retribution yet again.
I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like Retribution would be a lot better if they just took off the masks and didn't act like monster people. If they just acted like people if they acted like Ali, I think they would be a really cool group. But it's weird that he's acting the way he does, and then they walk out and they act like weird generic monster people. I don't really get that, and I've never really understood what this group was about to begin with. Mustafa Ali has been fantastic, though. If all this just leads to him getting TV time and getting used more, I think it's worth it because I love what he's been doing. I wish some of his internet videos and like things on social media got more time on Raw instead of just on Twitter, though.
That's what sucks, man. Peyton Royce, she cut a hell of a promo last week. Cesaro did on Talking Smack. They do these great promos, and it's just not even mentioned on TV. And just completely, I mean, Peyton Royce, she wasn't even on tonight. Retribution, gosh, it's hard. I give T-Bar, I call him T-Bag a lot, but I feel like I can't anymore after the tweets he made this past weekend where he said the T stands for trans rights and the B stands for Black Lives Matter. It's like, man, I can't read this guy anymore. He's a good dude.
He's a smart guy too.
I can't call him T-Bag anymore. Damn it!
Dare me now.
Yeah. But Mace and the other guys are free game. So, but yeah, I mean this has been DOA since that one guy had a hard time throwing that brick through the window. He barely got it. So Retribution, it's been tough. It hasn't been the best storytelling. I always think about the NWO, watching wrestling back then and seeing when you did have that real chaos and how it felt watching it, and you're just on the edge of your seat just watching it, and it's just you're hooked, and it felt real. And then just you watch Retribution with the chainsaws, the announcers running, it just felt corny. And it's just night and day. This can be done right, but it wasn't.
WWE it's so well produced and so well put together that it sometimes hurts them, I think, in situations like this, because it's so, like they produce it to a point where you can't help but make it not feel real, to that chaos like you're talking about with the NWO. Because I remember, I was a big fan of the NWO, and like the famous lawn dart moment when all that was happening, that the way they did that felt like it wasn't supposed to be happening, like something was going on, where this definitely feels like, okay, this is part of the show.
Right. But it's a segment.
It's a segment. But I look at like who they have, and you think of T-Bar and is Mace the other big guy?
So Mace is Brennan.
He used to be the
former NFL player.
Yeah. Like those two guys, if they were a tag team, they would be amazing. And then Mia Yim could be a fantastic women's competitor going after the title. Like they have the pieces. But when you're walking around like, doing this everywhere with a mask on, you're like, who are you? What are you doing?
Yeah. People are saying Dio Madden. Yeah, he's Dio Madden.
Dio Madden.
His real name is
Brennan Williams.
Brennan Williams. Yes.
Yeah. So,
he's got the look. He's got the size.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know. It looks like things are going to end poorly for Retribution, and it may not be around for a while. So it might not matter, but it's unfortunate because I do think they have the pieces. And as mentioned, for a company that looks so much at social media, it's shocking they don't see the reaction that some of the social media things get and then not incorporate it. But
yeah. Poor Slapnuts. I don't know about him, but the rest are. And he's actually good too. I don't mean to be picking on him. He's actually a good wrestler as well.
Matt.
It is now time for our main event, but beforehand, we get Drew McIntyre comes in. This felt like a little bit extra. He's in his gear, and he makes some joke about how this is where I was wearing my kilt, and he's being a little chummy. But it was well worth it because we get the worldwide leader in pettiness. They didn't do this last week, so I thought that they had grown, but we get a line from Drew McIntyre that if you know, you know. He says, if you make a guarantee and you don't deliver, fans get upset. Sparks fly. Who do you think that was about? What do you guys think about that?
I didn't even pick that up. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's an AEW reference for those of you who don't know. He was taking that shot.
I love the pettiness. I love it. I love it when they take shots at each other. It's great. It's fun as a fan. I want to see more of it. I want to see it. Wrestling's supposed to be about conflict. I like it when they do those things. It was fun back in the Monday Night Wars when they used to do it all the time. So I love it. I thought it was good, and it was a fun line. This felt, though, it kind of felt like they were backstage and they realized, why are Sheamus and McIntyre having a match?
Yeah.
And so we better go explain it somehow.
Yeah.
Drew, go kill some time for us and explain why you're having a match with him. Because it felt like he was like explaining it to us, which at this point feels a little late in the game, but we got the line, so it was worth it.
Drew's been great. He's a hell of a promo, but this, to your point, Jack, really did feel like they're like, hey, we got too much time left. We got Lashley and Sheamus going in there, so they're not going to go 20 minutes. Drew, go out there, because he was just kind of rambling for a little bit, and eventually he got to his point. But this really very much felt like they just told Drew to go out there and freestyle.
It did.
It did. Yeah. It's kind of meandering, I guess. It was. Drew, he was dealt a bad hand having to be the top guy before he was the top guy during a pandemic. Like it wasn't like he was already made and then the pandemic hit. He was made during the pandemic. So, it'll be interesting to see at WrestleMania how the crowd reacts to him. I think, he looks the part. He can cut a great promo.
I agree. I think he was probably dealt one of the toughest hands as far as one of the wrestlers go. Because you're right. Like, and what's tough is we've never really had a true reaction to him as champion. We don't really know how people are going to react to him. And I think at WrestleMania, for the most part, I think everyone's going to get cheers at WrestleMania because people are going to be like wrestling. But I do feel like he's in my book, he's the number one contender for reaction that they're not expecting. I think he kind of comes off like a jerk sometimes. So, and I think that right now Lashley is. I love Lashley. I mean, maybe that's just me, but like I'm rooting for him. I want him to do well, and I think a lot of other people are too. And and I think when you have Drew McIntyre out there kind of mocking him and mocking his title run and all this other stuff, I kind of have a feeling he might get a bad reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, to your point, you're not going to have a bunch of international fans who, go against the grain, that we see all the time at WrestleMania, especially with Roman back in the day. I have a feeling this crowd is going to toe the company line. It's going to be more like local fans, like a regular Raw or SmackDown. But I agree with you. I feel like Lashley's got the momentum. He's got the buzz. Drew, I don't feel the same. And it's clearly designed for Drew to beat Lashley, and I hope that it changes because I feel like we've seen the ratings the last couple of weeks. Lashley's been drawing. You treat him special. He's that guy. He's almost like your Brock. Him and Roman both are kind of like Brock without having Brock. He's like, but they'll cut promos, and they're there every week. So.
And to your point about Brock, I mean, they do seem closer than ever to a Brock-Lashley match. Like, Lashley's been answering a ton of questions about Brock in interviews. I don't think that's just something he's doing. And if they ever do Brock versus Lashley, I want this version of Lashley where he's red hot going into a match with Brock. Not the guy who lost to McIntyre. Then they do this attraction match. Like, I want this momentum going into Brock Lesnar.
You have Lashley beat Drew at Mania, and after the match, Brock's music hits.
Hell yeah.
Boom.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Stare down.
Oh, could you imagine? That'd be so good. So good.
Actually, with Brock, would you rather have it be with Lashley or Roman? Because with Roman, with the Heyman thing, that's pretty intriguing
but
too.
Lashley right now. Roman, we can do it long term. That's a story they could always tell. I mean, Lashley's just so hot right now. It's like lightning in a bottle. And I think if they let it out, Lashley Brock will seem like the ship sailed at some point. I don't think we'll ever get that feeling with Roman Brock, especially with Heyman involved. But I just want to see, Lashley and Brock. I think would be great.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I was just going to add, and also I would love to see Paul Heyman managing the champion of both brands potentially. That would be a fun thing to see. Yeah. That would be a fun thing to see, but I don't want to see Lashley lose either. No champions losing. That's what
Absolutely. Dino will bringing up. It takes a lot for me to hate on people. I try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but I hate Riddle's character. I can't, and I'm sorry. It feels like this is the way he really is sometimes. I'm 100,000% with you.
I hated him when he came to NXT originally, but he grew on me and I loved him. He doesn't feel as natural right now, but I don't know. He's lovable. How can you guys not like him? He's a lovable dude. He's a lovable bro.
He just drives me insane.
He's talented, but that character is death. Like, I love Matt Riddle, the guy.
Yes.
I seen him on the Indies, in NXT, he was great. But when I see him riding around on that scooter, I'm like, man, every second you're riding around on that scooter is a second that you'll never be WWE. Like, nobody's taking you seriously riding on a scooter.
And Lily MJ, to that point, I 1,000% agree. Every time I see him, it reminds me of the turtle from Finding Nemo, and gives me an urge to watch Dazed Confused. He's so annoying.
It does seem
1,000%.
I feel like to your guys' point, I do feel like you can tell when he's sort of saying his own things and then when he's saying what he has to say for the segment, because it feels like he'll be acting a certain way and then he's like, oh, by the way, I've got a scooter. Right. And then he'll like talk about scooters or he'll reference some really old movie. And it feels like that gets forced in there. And then I don't know, I feel like I can tell when he's saying what he was supposed to say versus just riffing on the moment. But I like him. I like him flipping off his flip flops. I think it's a fun thing.
Lashley versus Sheamus. You guys are already in the main event. I don't know what you guys thought about this match, but I just love this. Just seemed like a monster truck rally. Just these two big guys just beating the hell out of each other. Sheamus has been kind of an unsung hero this last month or so, just having these physical matches, and this is no different with Lashley. Like, maybe it wasn't the best technical match, but these guys are beating the hell out of each other. And the finish, I just love this finish. It might be something that they've been overdoing, but Sheamus goes for a bro kick, and then midair, Lashley hits him with the spear, and they just timed it right. And Lashley beat Sheamus clean in the middle of the ring going into Fastlane. And I mean, they did end with Drew McIntyre and Sheamus kind of facing off with each other. But, you know, I was pleasantly surprised to see, because Drew McIntyre is sitting outside the whole time. So you're thinking he's going to get involved, but to his credit, he sat out there like a babyface and watched the match, and Lashley won. So they're really doing a good job building up Lashley versus McIntyre at the same time of building up Lashley himself.
Yeah, Drew even gave it a thumbs up at one point, but Sheamus, I agree. He's very few people can lose as often as he does, but still feel like a top tier guy. Like, I feel when I think of the people he would match up with, they're all top people. I wouldn't want to see him in a rivalry with many people that weren't in the world title picture. He feels like, even though he just lost to Drew, he just lost to Lashley, will probably lose to Drew again. But I still think, because he always is just such a hard hitting guy, and he really pushes the people he's in the ring with, and it looks like he just beats the hell out of them. I still think I want him in those big spots. I agree. I think he's an unsung hero right now.
Yeah. I agree. Like, it felt like just two big bastards just going at it. It was, you know, it's really physical. I mean, we've seen with Lashley, you can rebuild someone that's believable, and they never did that with Sheamus. No one believes that Sheamus is going to beat Lashley. No one believes that Sheamus is going to beat Drew at Fastlane. So I mean, there is that, but Sheamus, you know, he's someone that you could always throw in that mix, and it's believable, even though you don't believe he's actually going to win.
Like, if you put him in a match with Matt Riddle, I would think he's definitely going to win that match and become the U.S. champion. I think that he feels like if he was at that level, he's in that weird space where he's like, if you put him in that U.S. title level, he would feel like it's beneath him, but he feels like he's not quite at that world title position yet, which is a shame, because he's one of those guys, the sneaky number of big accolades in his career over the years. I actually, the one thing I didn't like from this match, I didn't like Lashley attacking him afterwards. It felt like it didn't really fit with what was going on, but I feel like that was their way of saying, by the way, you're not supposed to like Lashley. Just remember that.
He does have
heel reminder.
Yeah. Oh, whoa.
Sorry.
Somebody's turning heel over there.
Roman Reigns, the big dog. Sorry about
that. Jack, to your point, like, it's not even really a sneaky amount. Now that I think about it, like, Sheamus has won pretty much everything there is to win, and he's had a weird WWE career because he's not like a legit Hall of Famer, but if you look at his career and on paper, he's won Royal Rumble, King of the Ring, you know, he's in a kind of all the world titles. He's won just about everything you can win without being at the level of like what Drew McIntyre is now, what Cena was for them for years and stuff like that. So it's a very weird career.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's got wins over John Cena. I mean, he's got a resume.
Yeah. He went into WrestleMania as world champion. It was on the pre-show, but he did. You know,
he beat Daniel Bryan in 18 seconds.
He did. and he kind of caused Daniel Bryan to become a gigantic babyface because it was that match that kind of sprung it off.
I wonder if Sheamus ever says you're welcome to.
Well, that was the show. They went off the air with more tension between Lashley and McIntyre. Well, there was actually McIntyre and Sheamus facing off. That's how they went off the air.
Yeah, kind of reiterating. It'll be a good match at the pay-per-view for some reason, but it'll be a good match, though. I mean, come on. Those guys usually have pretty good matches, so it'll be a good match at Fastlane. It just feels very, okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as a show, you missed this week. You didn't really miss much.
Yeah.
And again, it's WrestleMania season. It doesn't feel like WrestleMania season so far.
No, they're trying kind of, but yeah, it doesn't feel like that at all to me.
Yeah.
Do you think they're running things differently because of the crowd situation, or do you think we would have gotten this with or without crowds?
As far as
just like the way they're building and the way, like the feeling that you're like, if there was crowds, would it feel more like WrestleMania, or do you think they would have booked things differently, or do you think that's like they're maybe holding back a little bit, waiting, knowing that crowds are right around the corner, not wanting to maybe give us everything before the crowds are in?
Well, I think a lot of the people that they usually bring in during this time are really done. Like Undertaker is really done. Brock is more of a COVID thing, I think. I think they could get him back if they want to. Once we're past this pandemic, Triple H is probably not wrestling again. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're kind of running out of the rabbits to pull out of the hat. Cena is legit doing huge projects, so Goldberg is old. Yeah. I love Goldberg. You said you love Goldberg earlier on. I'm a huge Goldberg fan, but it does feel like that's one trick we've seen a few too many times, at least for a little bit. Yeah, I think if he did Goldberg versus AJ, they could have a hell of a match. But outside of that, I think we've to your point, we've seen it. They did WrestleMania tickets were supposed to go on sale tomorrow. That is not happening. WWE, they sent us, let me find the statement that they sent us. They said the WrestleMania on sale will be moved as plans for the 2-night event are still being finalized. We expect a new on sale date within the next week. So
they announced that on the show too.
Okay, gotcha. WrestleMania tickets not on sale yet. We're like 4 weeks away. It's crazy.
Yeah.
NXT, they had an outbreak. So apparently a lot of the stuff that you're going to see on the matches that were announced for NXT this Wednesday are going to be changed around because there was a COVID outbreak. So,
well, I don't know any of those details, but I do know that NXT is definitely one of those shows that they find a way to pull it out every time. They've got, I don't know how they do it. They just somehow reach into the back, pull out some wrestler that can put on 5-star matches somehow and makes it work. I don't know how it works, but I'm sure it'll still be a good show on Wednesday.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent in NXT. It's almost an embarrassment of riches. It's one of the kind of central problems with WWE is the amount of people who they have that are talented that they just can't seem to do anything with.
Mm-hmm. It's a great time as a wrestling fan because there's a ton of rosters right now that all kind of feel that way.
Yeah, AEW feels like that way too.
Yeah, there's not many rosters where I'm like, man, they don't have anybody. Yeah. They're all. Even when NWA was coming back, I was worried, like, man, who are they going to bring back in now that so many people have left to AEW? But they started announcing people, like, oh, I guess they've got people lined up too. So yeah, it's a good time.
And the post-WrestleMania NXT, it looks like it's confirmed that that's going to be on a Tuesday night. Whether or not that's the permanent spot going forward, seems that way, but we'll see. But right now, after WrestleMania, that is the plan right now, is a Tuesday night.
Oh, very cool. It'll be interesting to see what the ratings look like.
Fingers crossed. I mean, I would think they're going to be higher, just... in general, AEW, we've seen the weeks they've gone unopposed. They do more viewers than normal, but their 18 to 49 demo rating is still usually in the same ballpark. So they actually don't gain that much as far as with the demo, but they do with overall viewers.
I think it's I've always wanted. I don't really follow the ratings super closely, but I've always thought, honestly, it's people switching back and forth their TV, right? It's got to be. I mean, I don't think there's actually like that many people watching on Wednesday, right? But maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. I said I don't really follow it, but
combined, it's about 1.5 million if you add them both up.
The switching happens the most whenever NXT has like an overrun and they'll go a couple minutes over. Then the people who watch AEW will switch over to NXT. That's basically when you get the biggest switches.
Right. But, I think once people settle in, you're going to hit a point of just too much product too. So just because we see these increases on special nights, once you have 4 nights a week, we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
That will be an interesting thing to monitor and see how as it's every single night, and especially because AEW is adding content, and there's also Impact still out there, and all the other wrestling companies still out there doing stuff. So you're right; it will be interesting to see if it just fragments or what happens. But as a wrestling fan, I love it. I'm happy.
DTA podcast saying now the Tuesday night wars begin. Impact versus NXT. I have a feeling Impact is moving to Thursdays because the 1 week when NXT was on a Tuesday night, Impact did under 100,000 viewers. Wow. It was like something ridiculously low that they did. So I can't see them staying on for long.
So that's wrestling 5 days a week between these 3 national companies.
It's insane. It's too much.
Not counting pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
That WrestleMania week, you got Monday's Raw, Tuesday's the Hall of Fame, Wednesday and Thursday are TakeOver, Friday's SmackDown, Saturday and Sunday are WrestleMania, then Raw, NXT, yada yada yada. So we haven't figured out our podcast schedule yet, but it's just insane.
That Raw crowd is going to be very burned out by the time it gets to the after Mania, and then they have to just go sit through how do you sit through that and then sit through a regular Raw?
Yeah.
After that?
Right. Yeah. So, that's about it. Alfred,
Sure. Let's wrap up this podcast. It was a lot of fun. Great to do a podcast with you for the first time, Jack. I had a good time. Go ahead and plug whatever you want people to know.
Yeah, thanks, guys, so much for having me on. It's been a blast chatting with you guys. You can find me online at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. That's where you can follow me on most of my stuff. But the biggest thing I'm working on right now is I work for the United Wrestling Network and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, which you can view on Fight TV and KDOC if you're here in the LA market.
Excellent. Follow me on Twitter at This Is Nasty. Watch my articles on Forbes and YouTube Pro Wrestling Bits. Raj?
And you can follow me here or just keep checking out WrestlingGeek.com. We have tons of stuff, tons of exclusive interviews every day, so just keep checking us out. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. And we'll be back on Wednesday. Matt will be back next week. Glenn will be back on Friday. And we're going to have a Fast Lane podcast this coming Sunday, so just keep checking us out. We appreciate it, and we will talk to you again soon.
Happy 316 Day.